All right, everyone. As you can see, I have a mattress, but no real bed, no nightstands, which I need, no dresser. Oh, are those socks dirty?
Probably.
Oh well. Anyway, so time to build some furniture.
Hey there, everybody. My name's Ray.
And I'm Ray's figment of imagination.
Welcome to Ray's Miscellaneous Adventures.
What was that?
I can't even say the word.
Can't spell it either.
Miscellaneous.
Close enough. So what are we doing for this episode?
Well, we're going to be building another platform bed with storage underneath that was similar to the one we did in the A-frame adventure, but a little bit more modular.
Cool. Let's do it.
Okay, here we are. Let's get started. We are in SketchUp, and this is the platform bed that I'm going to be building here. And as you can see, it's basically a platform. Okay.
Good start.
And what it's going to have is boxes that will have a drawer in it that pulls out. And so these boxes are the foundation of this bed. So the idea is you'll be able to move them around, stack them. But in this case, they're going to be placed in this position here. And then I'm going to use the same boxes to create nightstands, which will be stackable as well. And then there's a headboard here. And the idea with this originally was something that I could move around if I move, which I tend to do quite a bit, it seems.
Hence Ramblin' Ray.
Right. I would be able to have something that I could break down pretty easily and move around. So that's kind of the gist of it. All right.
Yeah, and save my back.
This is just kind of a gray indicating the gray stain that I'm going to be using. But I'll zoom out over here and we will kind of have the parts laid out. So
Whoa.
Here's the same bed here without the nightstands next to it, just to kind of give you an idea.
Where's my shades?
I know the colors are a little bit out there, but I've color coded everything so that you can see that each of these each of these pieces are color coded, so that when we get to a parts list, you'll be able to tell where they go and how much we'll actually need. So there's the thought there. Let me see. Okay, so I've got this. Give me a second here. I'm going to. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and put in the bed parts here so I can show you those. So here we have the actual parts for the actual what I'll call the bed, meaning this top portion here and then the headboard. Okay, so here's kind of like a parts list that I created for just that portion of the bed. And this will become more self-explanatory as we go through. You'll see the parts that are needed. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the dimensions for this. And that way you can kind of see what the actual dimensions are. I'm trying to stay with dimensional lumber in this video, in this construction project, so that's something that anybody could easily do. I did end up ripping some of it down in the table saw myself to specific sizes, only because I started with larger pieces and ripped it down. But for instance, this here is a 3/4 by 4 1/4, so that would actually be cut down from a 1x6. Yeah, that would be a 1x6.
You sure?
Actually,
No.
I was thinking that was a 1x4, but it's too far to be a 1x4. So that one actually must have gotten ripped in the table saw. So let's just forget that. That was a bad example. We'll go back to this one here.
Oh boy.
So in this case, this also was ripped down in the table saw too. But anyway, it's 1.5 inches wide, which is a 2x material, and then by 2 3/4 inches. So forget everything I just said the last 2 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah, that some of this was ripped down in the table saw. All right, that was not. Didn't go where I wanted it to go, but that was my original thought. But things changed over time. Anyway, let me leave this up here for just a second. So if you needed to zoom in and you wanted to see what some of these individual pieces are, you could check on the dimensions here. So I'll leave that up for just a second, and you can take a screenshot if you want. At some point in the future, I may go back and do set it up so that it actually is a SketchUp file that you can download. Currently, I don't think I'm going to have that available. Let me also do something here. I'm going to turn off the shadows so that you can see it a little bit easier. And I'm going to move along to these other pieces for the bed. Okay, and we'll talk about more of the dimensions and stuff as we go. Here's the bed. I will put up the. Before I show the nightstands here, I kind of wanted just to show how this goes together here. And again, these are drawer units that'll be inside there, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and put on the bed dimensions. I'll tell you what, before I do that, let's do the nightstands. Okay. So again, these nightstands are stackable. You could have one, you could have two, you can move them around. The idea with this bed is you could take one of these off and put another unit under here or here, have the drawer units face out different ways. So it's completely flexible as to what you want. It's definitely a modular system. Let me go ahead and turn on these bed dimensions here. So this kind of gives you an idea of, this is for a queen size bed. And as you can see, it's 60 inches wide by 80 inches deep. So let's see if I can hold this here for just a minute. And that kind of gives you an overview of the size of things. In reality, retrospect, you'll see in the video I had to split this down the middle, so this becomes two pieces there. But there's some other things that changed as I progressed with the video and progressed with the actual construction that I ended up changing. There's the back, shows you kind of the back of the headboard. Again, look there for just a second. Okay. Now that you've got that, I'm going to go ahead and I created enough parts and materials actually to build what we have here is 4 units and then another 4 on the other side, so it's a total of 8 units. But I actually made 12 units in the video, and the idea was I ended up with a chest of drawers, so to speak. So this is 4 drawer units stacked, and again you can stack them as high or little as you want. Now I was originally going to do a dresser situation where I had 2 of these stacked and with a top on it, but the room that I'm putting these in was really too small, so I ended up going with a stack of drawers that I could put in the corner, which in the end I really liked as well. All right, let's do one more thing while I've got you here.
Is it time for an intermission snack?
Not yet. We're going to break apart the individual box. So here you can see the actual box here, and then the drawer unit that's for it. Okay, and over here are the pieces for this drawer unit. Everything that you'll need to complete one piece. And let me go ahead and turn on those dimensions as well. Okay, so let's see if I can. I'll leave this up for a second. All right, so you can see the basic dimensions on these. It's 17¼ inches wide by 18¾ inches in depth here. Now this 17¼ is at the top, so it's actually ends up being really 18¾ by 18¾ So they kind of are a cube, and we'll talk a little bit more of that as we go through the video too. And so you have the 1 drawer unit here, and then here's all the individual pieces to create this drawer and this area here. And again, everything is color-coded, which shows you where they go on the drawing. Let me get right over here for a minute, and you can see these pieces too. As I'm reviewing the video here, as I edit this, I've noticed that some of the boards there, what I'm zooming in now on the right there, that one board there, it's actually overlapped, so that's not the correct dimension there. That board should be moved out. And anyway, that's happened a few times in this video, and I'll try to cover that whenever I make that mistake in there.
Yeah, it should have been 17¼ inches.
Thanks. And I have them stacked together here, obviously because it's the same type of piece, but I also have them stacked together here just to kind of see, you could see with the length here of how much you could get out of an 8-foot board, which is what a lot of the material that I purchased. I purchased a lot of it in 8-foot because I wanted to be able to easily get it in my vehicle, and that if anybody else wanted to do it, they could also do it. Then you don't need a big giant trailer to go get the stuff. But it ends up being quite a bit of stuff, I will say that. So you may want to just, sometimes I'll just rent a little U-Haul trailer for the afternoon and run over to the hardware store and get all that stuff.
Is U-Haul an official sponsor?
No, I don't think so.
Their loss.
I don't think they're losing sleep over it. There is something else I wanted to show really quickly here as I zoom out. And that was the actual, not that.
Oops.
That was actually just a drawer unit. Okay. Oh, there it is. Here we go. Over here, what I did is these are actually all the pieces, or most of the pieces, if not all the pieces, for all of the 12 drawer units themselves. And this was a sheet of 1/4-inch plywood here. That's the 12 drawer bottoms that I've got out of that unit here. And what I did is I took all my parts apart from my drawing here, made copies of all of them, and put them out here. And what I did is, again, I tried to fit everything in an 8-foot length. So these are items that I could get out of an 8-foot piece. And so that's what I did for everything over here. I put them all in 8-foot pieces. That way it would tell me how many boards I would actually need of each one, when I was going to make my parts list. So that actually helped immensely because there ended up being quite a bit of parts and pieces to this, as you can see. But again, this is for 12 box units. You may not want to do that if you indeed end up doing this project. You may just want to have what you need initially for the bed itself, which is, at a minimum, you're going to need the 4 boxes underneath for the bed. And again, if you want nightstands, you can put 1 on each side or 2 on each side, depending on how you do it. All right, let's get started into the construction. I think everybody's got a good idea of what we're trying to do here. I hope so. That's kind of a lengthy intro.
Just a bit.
Let's get started. Okay, real quick, as I was looking at reviewing the editing of the video here, I realized that back here on the parts for the cube, I had 1 missing on here on the gray boards here. There's 1 missing, so it's at 78 or something like that. So there's actually 6 of these pieces here, so that's the length of that. Not a big deal, but just wanted you to be aware of that. All right, let's get back to it.
All right, here I have my setup here, my brand new DeWalt saw.
Sweet.
Job site table saw, portable table saw.
Right.
Love this thing so far. Actually, I haven't used it. It's brand new, brand spanking new. At any rate, I've got some outfeed tables set up here. It's work table here, and various tools that I'm going to need here. Pen, pencil, some marking things, measuring things, and all that good stuff. And over here, I just bought this on Craigslist too. A used,
Wow.
rigid
Did somebody die?
No, why'd you say that?
miter saw.
Thought you might have inherited something from a rich
And
relative.
it comes with the outfeed station here.
I don't have any rich relatives.
Not outfeed, but I mean the leveling station there for
Rats.
hold the board supports there. So that's all great. It's good. And you don't need all this stuff really. You could do this whole project entirely with a skill saw and a straight edge, but this obviously makes things a lot easier. So let's get started. For this project, I actually wanted this to look like a kind of like old barn wood that I'm using, and so I found some of this wood at Home Depot, and it's actually got it's kind of like it's a rough, like a bandsaw that cut this, and then they milled this with some type of texture, but it kind of gives it an old barn look to it. So I'm going to distress this even further, but I like this texture for what I'm trying to create here. So we're going to start off with this rather than just a plain smooth 1x4 or 1x8 or whatever. That's just more of like a finished plain pine. I've got this texture to work with. Since I didn't see any of this material in 1x2, I'm going to cut 1x2s out of a larger board, which normally it would be like 7 1/4, but this is a little closer to 7 1/2. But I'll get my 1x2 out of this side, and then I'll get a 5 1/2 out of that side over there.
A couple things about using a table saw. Here you can see I use a push stick to push the wood all the way through there, keeping my fingers well away from the blade. In addition, I also have the blade set so that it barely comes above the surface of the top of the wood, which means there's less blade exposure that could cause potential injury. Also, since I knew my board was wide enough, I wanted to get a perfectly straight edge on one side, so I actually cut the one edge first, just shaving off a little bit, and that way I could flip the board over and I'd have a nice square edge to put up against the fence on the other side.
With the 12-inch wide boards here, the only way really to cut that is this sliding compound miter saw. Otherwise, you're going to cut it by hand, but this is wide enough to actually reach the whole length here and make a nice clean cut. As I started cutting the pieces to size here, I took one piece of the first cut and made sure it was totally accurate from a measurement standpoint, and then I used this kind of as a template to mark the other ones. The nice thing about this is you're doing this, if you got a bad area, you can kind of just lay the boards up here and see, flush it up there and see where it can kind of fit and how much wood you can get out of this, because some areas you just got to cut out. So it's nice to have those pieces pre-cut, and then you can kind of move them around and see how much you're going to get out of the board. Saves a little bit of measuring, and yeah. And so I kind of did that with every piece here, so they're all marked, as you can see. Well, super light there, but the length is marked, and I've got them in stacks for their appropriate lengths. That way it kind of keeps everything organized, and also creates just very little waste, as you can see here. Not that much in the waste pile, honestly, for as much as I've cut so far. As you get these stacks cut here, you really need to have a good list here, unlike mine. But anyway, you have a good list here, and check them off as you get them done, and put them off in another stack there. Otherwise, you'll just really lose track of what's going on, because this ends up being quite a bit of wood.
I'll say.
We're getting there. And the sun is also starting to get there going down, that is.
Supper
It's been a
time.
long day, but we're going to keep working.
Oh, there's the dinner bell.
Really? Sounds like a school bell.
Is this better?
Not really.
Hey, I'm limited on my free sound effects.
Alright, just give me a minute to talk about the sides of the drawers where we're going to cut a groove in them to hold the bottom panel of the drawer.
Alright, just be quick. We gotta wrap this video up.
I'll be putting in the groove for the bottom of the drawer, and I want to make sure I've got the smooth side in. So the groove will be down here, and that'll hold that bottom panel, and that way all the smooth will be inside the drawer and the texture will be on the outside. Since I don't have a dado blade here, which is a thicker blade here, which will cut the groove the exact width that I want already, I'm going to have to make several passes. The first pass here for that first part of the groove, then I'll move it over about 1/8 of an inch and make the other pass. But I'll go ahead and make this first pass on the whole stack here, and then I'll reset my table saw here, add another about 1/8 of an inch to it for the blade width, slide it over, and then cut that second groove.
Here's the first pass where I have the blade set at about 1/4 inch deep.
Here you can see I've made a second pass, and that just created the thickness there that I need to slide my 1/4 inch plywood into. Here I'm going to check the groove to see how it fits on my plywood here, which is like a 1/4 inch birch plywood. And looks like it fits in there pretty good, actually. A little bit of play, so I might make it just a little bit tighter, but I don't want it super, super tight, because when you try to assemble all this, it's really difficult to get it together, excuse me.
Get it together.
And I'm also going to put a little bit of glue in the groove there, so that should be about right.
So to recap, the groove on the drawer side there ends up being about 1/4 inch off the bottom and maybe 1/4 inch deep and about 1/4 inch wide. A little bit less than that because the plywood's actually a little bit less than that. But that kind of gives you a basic idea. You can really kind of adjust it, put it kind of wherever you want, and adjust those a little bit by 1/16 or so. But anyway, I found that's a pretty good thing to go to.
Okay, we done now?
Yeah, well, that's it for today. Let's wrap it up.
Good. Where are we going to dinner?
Say goodbye.
Bon appetit, everybody.
Well, that's one of the problems with getting a little bit older is you can't see very well. So I'm sure this is like some kind of ocean saving rules, but you know what? So I can see the line anymore.